Alright, that should do it.
Still have sound? We should have sound and video now. I don't know why it didn't work before, but we're all here now, I hope, because I'm seeing seeing just about everything light up except for 1 second. I guess I better not mess with anything if it's working. I don't know why. It's the same every week. Every week I have the same settings, and then than last week and this week. It's like it's just not. It's a little muffled, huh? All right, hold on. Uh, uh, there's no sound over here. All right, that how's the sound now? I'm gonna just kind of talk normal and see how it's going. If you guys can hear me okay now, just let me know in the comments, but I'll talk for a couple of minutes. And if that doesn't work, then we'll we'll just call it and say no stream today because it's so frustrating, I think, for you guys that are here live now, and never mind people that come back to watch it later. They start to stream and like 10 minutes in, there's nothing happening. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, it's been a productive week for me at least. I finally got the final product review done of that Smoke Ninja machine, and now I can kind of get back to normal videos and vlogging and helping people more. And I have a couple of more products coming in, but they're very easy ones to do. I have a new lens that actually already came in, but it's not released yet, so I can't tell you what it is. And then there's a what is it? Another flash from Godot's coming in, which is kind of cool. So that I think has been released, but I'm gonna hold off till it actually comes in to let you know what that is. But these will be kind of cool. Um, and let's see. Sounds like the computer mic instead of the audio mic could be. Uh, it's frustrating. This mic is working. It's the computer mic. Uh, so let me set this setting. So hopefully that's better. Um, I turned on some kind of AI thing to improve the sound, but I don't know because it is the computer mic. It's still going to sound pretty rough. But anyhow, uh, so those are done. But I got over a dozen products in, and it takes me 2-3 weeks to kind of put a video together for a single product. And I ended up doing I think four products a month for 4 months. I mean a lot. It's crazy. I'll never do that again. I'm gonna have to pace myself to one or two product reviews a month. Uh, but YouTube. When I'm watching YouTube and I see all the different uh, videos coming out, um, it's kind of painful. I'm getting a little jaded by all the different titles and topics that people are covering. And and I'm not talking about our usual, my friends, right? Like, Robin and Maddie and Peter, Jimmy, they kind of make normal videos, right? What they like, what they don't like, what they're doing, products that they're trying out, new cameras or uh, street photography tips. Peter's been kind of into that lately. All terrific. Emily's. I'm talking about all the other channels that you see the normal clickbaity type titles, which is fine, right? They're great for getting new subscribers to click on your channel, watch it, and see if they like it. But then the subject matter itself is just it's like the same thing over and over and over again. You know, pros do this, pros don't do this. This is a game changer. This it's like seriously, the all hyperbole on YouTube about photography is is starting to get to me a little bit. And even when I do my own product reviews, I try not to use any hyperbole. You never hear me say this is a game changer or this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I try to give a fair assessment of what I think of this particular product, whether it's a lens or a smoke ninja or whatever, and say, these are kind of the pros and cons, just a normal like review. And they don't get a ton of views. I'm happy to get 1,000 views on a video these days. It's you know, it is what it is. The algorithm has changed. So I'm going to transition back to more more educational type videos or demonstration or exercises, things that are more practical. Um, and then, of course, doing the dance of just trying to answer questions and stuff. Because at the same time, me as uh, you know, I try to be as helpful as I can. But when people ask me questions in the comments, I answer them best I can. But when I decide to make a video about certain questions, I did a lot of that last year. Uh, it's like week to week, I'm doing this monkey dance, right? Okay, this week I'm going to make a video because somebody has having a problem with this, and then the next week I'll make a video because I have these three or four questions, and I think it's hard to explain in a comment. It's easier to make a video, and uh, I want to do that again, but I got to think of a more what's the word I'm looking for? Logical is not the right word, but a more we'll just say structured way of doing that. Um, because I'm not good enough in a live stream to answer questions on the fly a lot of times, right? Because there's so many things about our cameras, particularly Olympus, which is an OM systems, which I'm fairly proficient at. It takes me a lot of time to put together to answer one question sometimes because it's never a simple answer. But that's what I'm thinking about how I'm going to approach that. Uh, and then I definitely want to do some more vlogging because I bought this new camera. I don't know. Let's see. Um, Here it is. New vlogging camera. Not that there was really anything wrong with my old one, but this is the Insta 360 Go. Where's the button? And you just kind of stick it here, and you're good to go, right? Um, it's very small, lightweight, compact. I mean, there's a couple of cons. You have to um, you have to be conscious of the battery life, right? Because it's only 30 to 45 minutes. So you have to kind of keep this charging case with it to charge it in between shoots when you're walking around. But anyway, Emily Lowry's video about this little camera kind of got me to get one. And she does some of the best product reviews, right? When she talks about her stuff. I love her product review videos when she talks about a lens or talks about this camera. I mean, she's just great. Um, but anyway, I watched her video, and of all the videos I seen on this camera, hers was the best one. It was like just kind of the real life, use it, go out and show footage that she took. But so many other reviews of products in general, they're so hyperbolic. They're just, you know, they make things like your photography is going to change forever. And it just drives me nuts. Uh, like I saw a thumbnail for a title that said, "Stop with the bokeh." Oh, there is something I got to do here. Um, Give me 1 second. What do you guys think as viewers, right? Because you're not necessarily some of you might be, but you're not necessarily content creators, right? You're just photographers. And and you come onto YouTube to try to pick up new tips or uh, ideas, or just sit back and relax. Like I like to watch camera conspiracies. I think the guy is hilarious sometimes. Um, nah, what the heck is going on with this? Ellie's got something going on. I, let's green. I have no idea. I lost my chat window. Um, Sorry about that, but hopefully you can still hear me. Uh, it looks like it from this little bar down here. Well, what do you think? I mean, is it just me or people on YouTube getting more, or has it always been like that? Just more and more ridiculous with their uh topics, It just I haven't watched a video in a long time from outside of our little circle here that I thought was any good, you know? Some of them are entertaining, but they're not showing you anything new or teaching you anything new about photography. And it's really almost a complete waste of time sometimes. Uh, I don't know. Like this live stream is just here so we can kind of get together and talk about photography and these things. And I'm talking about YouTube a lot. But you know, it's photography on YouTube is just even people that I used to watch uh, for a long time. Like I'm trying to think. I mean, well, there's people that I stopped watching a lot. Like I really love Frono's photo, like his older stuff. But now it's like week after week after week of just photo news fix, right? And I kind of like them at first, and I'll catch one every now and then. But then you go to like four or five other channels, and they're all telling you the same thing. Release of this, release of that. And I see, let's see, let's go to one. I watched the M43rds, and that's about it. These a few others, but not much, right? And Cameo says, or Camera Combo says, I'm getting sick of 43 M43 rumors. So much clickbait ads, milking every last tiny bit and tidbit of information is so bad now. I'll never go back. YouTube's been watchful with the ads, needs another ad blocker. I know, right? Uh, yeah, the ads. Oh my goodness. It's like sometimes I see like two, three ads right up front, and they're not short ads like that you can click through. You have to sit there for like 45 seconds, a minute sometimes, and 90 seconds, and then, a minute later, another ad comes on. So there's one guy, I forget his name, turned off the ads. Uh, and I've done that on some videos before, but then the ads show up anyway. So I'm like, well, why should I turn off the ads if they're going to come on anyway? I'm missing out on a few pennies here and there. Um, so let's see, Eric is here. Eric's a good guy. He's such a great supporter of my channel and always has great feedback. He says, my preferred viewing is like, for example, your photo walks is relaxing. I could care less about new cameras or equipment. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, YouTube, I feel like is the kind of place where like the time that I seriously go to YouTube, right, is when I need to fix something. Like I forget what it was. I had a something wrong with my dishwasher, and I went to YouTube to try to find somebody that knows how to fix it. And then another time I went on because I was trying to put in a new light switch. So I wanted to make sure I got the wiring right. And those things, I think feel like YouTube is great for, right? You just find that one guy showing you how to do something, and it's so random, but uh, yeah, it's frustrating sometimes now when I look at it. Like, let me go to it right now and see what I get. Um, oh, you guys can't see this screen. Hold on. So this is my thumbnail list, which is based on my history of watching and stuff, right? So, ugh, that's not the right screen. Let me move it over here. No, no. Yeah, that'll do. Um, so Emily, yeah, good stuff here. And so yeah, I was watching a lot of smoke videos to do my own review. I was watching some Leica stuff. I don't know what all this stuff. Cooking. Like I haven't, oh, I watched an egg video this morning. That's funny. That's so there's an egg thing there. Lenses and product shots. Like here, Mark Wemmels, right? He does great lens reviews, and he intentionally makes very clickbaity titles. And look, he's got like 100,000 views on this lens, the cheapest autofocus lens ever, and it's amazing, right? And I'm sure it is, but I mean, every lens he reviews is amazing, or the best, or the cheapest, or the best of every single lens. And then here, the best APS-C Sigma 18 to 50 2.8, the only lens brands photographers need. I mean, it's like, what else is in here? Oh, some alien stuff, digicams, battle. Like these things, these are a complete waste of time. The battle of these different lenses and comparing different lenses and the worst lens ever tested. Let me see what this is. What is that lens? Looks like an M mount. Seven Artisans, Brandon Lee. What is this? TT Artisans 50 f1.5. And then this lens is $429. Wow. Oh, because it's M mount. Anyway, let me get out of this. This is just painful to watch. How do I turn this off? So, um, the best, the worst, the compare. I mean, I just feel like it's all crap these days, right? Nobody's telling you anything. Uh, so I'm frustrated, just like you guys, right? Maybe because I just did like a dozen product reviews myself that I'm a little bit worn out by doing them and watching them. But yeah, I don't know what 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 are people really looking for with photography? I think people like Casey at Camera Conspiracies, you got to take everything he says with a grain of salt, but there's people that take him seriously. If you don't take him seriously, it's a great channel to watch and have fun with. But there are people that take him seriously and ask him for advice and stuff, and I'm just like, you guys are nuts. Um, oh, anyway, let's see. What's this say? YouTube Premiere is the best 13 bucks a month I've spent. Have you seen that? And oh yeah, YouTube Premiere, that's true. If you're like a hardcore YouTube watcher, definitely get Premiere. And then there's a question here from Anthony. Hey, Anthony, how are you? I got your iceberg pictures, by the way. In Canada, the Canada one is still 27.99 after being out almost 2 years. The G9 is on sale for 22.99, lower price than the original one. Let's see if $500 cheaper. I don't know what's going on in Canada. I know here in the US it might still be going on, but the home one had a $300 trade up uh, program. I remember it was very recent. It may have expired. It may still be going on, but you trade in any camera and they'll give you 300 bucks off in addition to whatever the trade-in value is on your camera. So that's like a $300 sale. Because really, if you're buying another camera, you should probably be trading one in, right? Um, unlike me, who keeps everything. It's just disgusting. But I do have some junk cameras I need to get rid of. There's no reason for it to be 27.99 in Canada versus 22.99. Um, but my opinion, I feel like the G9 II, it's just a very different camera ergonomically. Because I had the S5, which is identical, right, to the G9 II, and I didn't care for it too much in terms of handling. Uh, I just think cameras should be smaller. At least Micro Four Thirds cameras should be smaller. And the OM1 is definitely smaller than the G9 II. And then there was, let's see. If you ever watch Grainy Days, it's all film, but his videos are great just for going out. Yeah, I've watched Grainy Days a few times. His videos are long too, man. I remember I watched his, and I'm gonna do this myself, do this trip on Route 66 and take pictures. That has crossed my mind so many times. I just hate to leave my house empty for more than a week, if that. I hate to leave it empty during the day. I'm just very paranoid because we've had a couple of squatter issues in my area, right? Uh, and yeah, I don't want to, I can't deal with that. But I mean, just not down the street, but a few blocks away. Wow, somebody had a real hard time with a squatter there. And how long does your house have to be empty before somebody figures out you're not home and comes in, So if there's an active squatter problem, I'm like, and I got cameras and security and all of that going on, but it just doesn't matter sometimes. You just got to be home. Um, oh, sorry, I saw this one. And says back to education. I vote for a Lumix G9 menu walkthrough and note setup. I would definitely be great how to. And oh, Office Farm. I probably will never get a G9 too. So I won't be able to do a video on that, unfortunately. Um, and Camera Combo says with YouTube, you end up having to block the suggestion because they invariably get more and more extreme. That's a good point. That might be true. What I have done in the past, and I should do this more often, is go into my YouTube history and just erase everything. I did that once before, uh, and it did clean up a lot of things, and I was back to reasonable suggestions. So if you go into your history tab on YouTube and erase everything and see how that works. I should do that again. And let's see. Randy says, honestly, your how-tos are what kept me watching YouTube. As a new owner of the OM5, there's so much can do that it's easily overwhelmed. When I went to try a new feature, I looked. Um, yeah, and that's the thing is I have a lot of videos from last year and back that whatchamacallit, that it's hard, it's getting harder and harder to find the specific thing that you want. And that's what I meant by I want to get back into answering people's questions and doing things, but how do I do it in a way that uh, when people want to go and find something later, I don't know if there's anything I can do because the algorithm pretty much dictates what you're going to see. But how do I organize things on my channel so that it's indexed in a way that even if the YouTube algorithm didn't exist, you could go to my channel and find what you're looking for. And I just don't know if there's a way to do that. Maybe I have to set up a supplement on my website, right? And index things there, because then I could index things properly on my website and then have links back to my YouTube channel. So okay, there's a video for that here, there's a video for that here. I'll think of something. I got to do something though. Uh, because it's in, and you've heard other like Robin and has mentioned this, where people ask him the same thing over and over again, and he has to keep pointing them back to a video, right? But something on like a website gets indexed, and it's something you can just type in robtrek.com, go there and do a search on the web on my page, and then you'll find it much quicker. And then there'll be a link to a YouTube video. So that might be one way to do it because that's not something you can do on YouTube. I can't like create an index. I mean, I have playlists, right? But then in the playlist, then you get lost again, right? Um, there's got to be a way. And then Eric says, I generally stay away from those on YouTube, like Tony Guy, and I would dare waste my time on that commercialized crap. Yeah. I mean, for me, like I turned down a sponsorship. I mean, I turned down sponsorships flat out, like where they pay me, they actually pay me money. If they want to send me something for free and I think it's, interesting or it's lenses, generally I'll accept any lens request. But I've turned down a couple of lens requests because they were, anyway. Uh, the paid sponsorships are a little bit tougher, right? Because those you get very specific requirements in a contract and you have to say certain things, right? Um, and even if you really believe, like if OM Systems offered to pay me to talk nice about the OM1, you know, there would be no conflict there at all, right? Because I really like OM Systems, OM1, all of the Olympus cameras, and I could, they could if they paid me and they said, well, you need to mention A, B, C, D, E, F. I'm like, fine, I can mention those five things because these five things are great. But there, even in a scenario like that, I would turn it down. I'd be like, I just don't want to be paid and have these requirements and responsibilities and contracts, and then get this because it taints your credibility a little bit. My channel is basically a fan channel. I'm a big fan of Micro Four Thirds, Olympus, Olympus Systems, and photography enthusiasts in general, which is why I have all these different cameras, film cameras, Sony, Panasonic, or Fuji, um, Nikon, etc. I like those other systems too, but not as much as I like my OM system cameras. That is my go-to preferred system of choice. And I'm trying out a new camera that David lent me, this LX is charging. This thing, I think this was this last week anyway. The LX 100 Mark II. I'll talk a little bit about this camera uh, and my thoughts so far on it, but I'll probably do a video on this camera and talk about, kind of my final thoughts. So we'll see. And then my other channel is the guitar and music, same thing. Lots. Wow, really? Yeah, I bet everything on YouTube. Everybody treats their YouTube channel like a business, ultimately, right? Not everybody, but a lot of people. It turns into a business, and they're trying to generate as many new subscribers and generate as much ad revenue as possible. And that's great. I would love it if I had some, getting 100,000 views per video and actually can make a living off YouTube. But I don't think that'll ever be the case because I never treat this channel like a business. I treat it like a great outlet to share uh, my photography and then to help people as much as I can. And I make a few pennies and donations here on the side, but uh, I never treat this like a business, right? Like, okay, you know, this is my goal for this month or the next 6 months, and these are the things I need to get done and accomplish. None of that. It's every day. I just kind of sit down here at my desk and I read the comments and I look for questions and I try to answer them or direct them to other places, and then um, I get stuff sent to me sometimes. Sometimes stuff will show up and I didn't even ask for it. Like, well, I don't want to say that, but I'll get emails for stuff that I was like, well, this is like a $50 item. The best item I ever got that was cheap is that tripod extension arm. It's like a $59 accessory, but that is one of the best things I ever got. And I use that thing all the time. So when I did a review on it, I was honest. I said this thing is awesome, you know. Uh, and then I hate it when people ask what camera should I buy without more info. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I get it. It's hard for people to ask a question in 180 words or whatever the limit is, especially during a live stream or in a comment. Uh, I found that you know people need to put a little more effort, right, into their questions, so that me as a person that's trying to help and answer the question gives you the most appropriate, best answer I can. And because a lot of times I'll get a question, I don't even know what camera they have, and it matters a lot of times, right? Uh, so I have to respond and say, okay, what camera do you have exactly? What lens do you have exactly that this question is about? Because it's gonna depend. Um, but it's okay, if they respond and tell me exactly what camera they have, then I can answer it, right? But there's some people that just won't put up with that. They're like, if you're gonna ask me a lazy question, I'm not gonna give you an answer. But I'm like, a lot of times when you're leaving a comment into a video, you don't know if the person's even gonna read it or answer it anyway. So how much effort, do you want to put into it? You can take the time to write this long ass question because I see it all the time. These long ass questions or comments and opinions in the comment section. No response from the YouTuber, right? It's like they didn't read it at all. And you as a viewer, eventually you're gonna get a little jaded yourself, like, well, let me just drop a comment, maybe they'll answer, you know? So I get it. It's a two-way street, right? You as the viewer can get jaded as much as me as the provider, the content provider, creator, whatever, to help. You kind of get a little bit jaded on both ends. Um, it's not like these live streams. Like the best the best person that does this, that guy David, I think David Smith over at the OM Systems, he does the best Q&As ever, right? If you have a question about the Olympus cameras, man, that guy is on his game, man. He's like that. He can answer a question and give you a good answer. Um, he's one of the best at doing those. Um, Robin Wong's really good at that too. Like if you ask him a question, he can give you an answer like this, you know. The difference with Robin Wong though, his answers are a little more opinionated, right? Um, and he tells you that. He's like, just my opinion, guys, right? Or whatever his verbiage is. Um, but David Smith, he's a little bit more matter of fact, right? Like these are the settings for this, that, and the other thing. And let's see, it's getting harder to justify staying with OM system, and full frame is getting cheaper and better. That was the same time using a crop sensor hammer and then system. Yeah, there's so many choices out there, right? Like uh this is why I think the EM10, or OM10 as it will probably be called, will probably never come out because you can get a really, really nice APS-C Canon or Sony for like 600 bucks, 700 bucks or less all day long with a lens. And, Micro Four Thirds, the EM10 Mark IV right now is like $700 or $800 with a lens. And now the EM10 Mark II was so fully loaded and packed full of features that at that price point you were getting it was kind of making up for the perceived difference in sensors, right? Because there's a perception that Micro Four Thirds is nowhere near the quality of full frame, and that to me is it's subjective. To me, there's not that much difference. Full frame, Micro Four Thirds, medium format, whatever. There's not much, honestly. I really don't see that much difference between cameras myself in terms of sensor format, resolution. It's all in the processing. If you want to talk about image quality, we're not talking about photography, okay? We're talking about image, just pure image quality. Excuse me. I don't see a whole heck of a lot of difference from compact cameras all the way up to medium format. You can take any camera and get a decent picture if you know how to process the image. Um, but going back to the M10 Mark II, that camera had everything. Whereas if you went with the Fuji XT, the XT10 was out at the time, or the Canon. At that time, Canon just had the DSLRs, but now they have the M50, and then they discontinued that. Now they have the R100, the R10. These are cameras, and Sony has the A6100, the A6600, the A67. These are, well, the A67 is a little expensive, but you can get like an A6100 for like 600 bucks. And it's pretty full featured. It lacks a few things. But now even the EM10 Mark IV is has a lot of great features, but it's not quite at the level as these other APS-C cameras, right? At that price point. So when you look at something like the OM1 versus a full frame, say R8, right? The Canon R8, the Canon R6. Look at the R6 Mark II. That's about the same price as a OM1, maybe even less at this point. Um, if I was the salesman at the camera store, I'd be like, yeah, get the R6 Mark II. It's full frame, better image quality, terrific lenses. I mean, nothing I'm saying is not true. It is a fantastic system. R6 Mark II with the Canon glass. But ultimately, for me, it's about the form factor, because it is going to be a smaller system if you go with the OM systems, Micro Four Thirds. And I just and lenses that they make for OM systems are all really amazing. I mean, terrific glass. And at that point, now the system is much cheaper, in my opinion. When you start looking at the glass and the equivalent focal lengths and and the image quality difference are so subtle between the two systems. Honestly, it really is. I mean, people talk about, well, if you're going to be in low light, and shoot at high ISO. But Maybe if you're doing that all the time, if you're shooting in a cave at night all the time, you're in low light, indoor late night photography, maybe then you can justify pulling in a larger sensor. Uh, but the trade-off is you're gonna need heavy because you're still gonna need an f1.4 lens or an f1.8 to bring in that low light, regardless of sensor size. And at that point, your lenses get huge. You know what I mean? So it's just a much bigger system. I would rather shoot at a higher ISO uh, and and use smaller, faster glass because I can get a 1.8 lens for my Olympus or a 1.4 lens for my Olympus 1.2 lens, and they're going to be overall for the equivalent focal length and light gathering a smaller, cheaper system, right? Um, so, but yeah, it's a tough call. You have to really give some thought to uh, how much gear are you willing to carry? Like I was watching Mr. Leica, I forget his real name, Matt Osborne, I think, and he was looking at the Leica CL, the Leica Q, Q2, Q3, the Leica M10 or M11. He was comparing all these different cameras, and he wanted to take a light travel camera with him, so he got the Leica CL with the 28 millimeter f2.8, and he was happy as a peach. A few months later, he ends up buying a Leica Q2 or something, right? Um, but in that video, he was talking about, yeah, this is like 200 grams lighter, and it costs about the same, sometimes a little more, depending on the lens that you get. And for him, it's kind of like me with the Olympus cameras. It's just a few hundred grams lighter, or 100 grams, or 50 grams, whatever. It's a very small difference sometimes when you're comparing different cameras and lens combinations. But it's kind of like just you have to look at things as a whole. And as a whole, for most of the things that I do, I can carry a smaller, lighter, less expensive system with micro four thirds than I can with any other system. Uh, I can go out with my, 10F and 14 to 42 kit lens and compare that to my Fuji and its kit lenses. You know, that I get it. There's 100 ways to slice and dice the cameras out there, and you can ultimately come up with two cameras that are perceived. One might be a better deal than the other, but ultimately you have to look at the entire system. And I always come back to micro four thirds, my Olympus cameras, when it comes to lens and camera combinations. And somebody asked me, how do I decide what camera among the many that I have that I'm going to take out? And the answer is it's not the camera. I decide what lens am I going to use first? What lens do I need? What's going to be the best lens I have for this particular purpose? And then if I have that lens for a specific camera, that's the camera I'll use. Is depending what lens, what camera fits that lens. Rarely do I say, I want to take my pen F out. Now, what lens am I going to use? It's always like, what lens do I want to shoot with? And then what camera works best with that lens? And for example, the 25 millimeter f1.4, uh, I don't like using that on my Pen F because it's a little bit big and bulky. But if I want to shoot with that lens, I'm going to take out my EM5 Mark II or my OM1. If I'm going to shoot with the 25 millimeter 1.4, if that's the lens I want to take out, that is that is one of two cameras that I might take. The EM5 Mark II, usually it's the EM5 Mark II or the OM1. Uh, if I want to use my 40 to 150 kit lens, it's almost always with the Pen F. But then the Pen F with extension tubes. So my decision about what camera I'm going to use is never is secondary to what lens do I want to use, and then what camera works best with that lens. So, um, and I have a very high confidence level in the Olympus camera systems to deliver exactly what I need and what I want. And it's partially has to do because I'm extremely familiar with the system and I know exactly what I need to do to get the image that I want, the settings I need to use, best settings that I need to use, etc. And I struggle when I grab any other system, partially because I'm not quite as familiar with them. But like my Fuji camera, I have every lens I need for it. I got six or seven lenses for that thing. I have a 23, a 56, the 18 to 55, the 55 to 200. I have another 50. What is it? Yeah, I have a couple of 50s for it. I have a 27. I mean, I need to get a, I want to get an 18, but I have the kit lens that cover. I have everything for it. Uh, but because that's a system that I look at the camera and I say, okay, I'm going to take this camera and now what lens do I want? But it's not like that with when I want to do my, because think about it, the lens that you choose has to do with the kind of photography that you want to do. It's photography related. When I grab any other camera, my Sony or my Fuji, I grab that camera because of the camera, not because of the lenses. And that's that tells you something about how I feel about those cameras, right? I I don't feel like I'm not inspired by them or use them for photography quite as much. The only time I've really taken them out all year is because I had to do a review on a lens for it. But finally, I'm starting to build up the lens collection a little bit through all these people sending me stuff. But uh, every lens on the Fuji system I bought and paid for, except for one recently that I did a review for too, like the tilt lens. Uh, but up until these couple lenses came in, I bought a lot of lenses for because I was really excited about that camera. And I still am in a little bit, but anyway, uh, let's see. We catch up. Says Eric says your numbers are steadily rising through over time. I feel it be ideal living if you kept at it. People seek more down to earth channels like yours that aren't all hyped up. I hope so. I hope so. It's all about, who you connect with. I don't know. My audience generally like is age 55 and up. So, at our age we've seen it all, done it all, and it's like we get tired of the hyperbole that we see. We just want, you know, we just want the facts, the information that's going to help us, right? And we don't get caught up in all the hype. But it's just getting to a level now that is maybe it's always been there and it's bothering me more now than it has before. But I feel OMS isn't charging way too much these days and getting greedy, just turning a lot of micro four thirds off from the system. I don't get that impression myself. Um, honestly, yeah, I because there's a lot of people in the camera club that I go to. David Crooks is here actually. David Crooks. This is a photo club I joined through David. But yeah, more than a few people bought Olympus cameras uh, because we're both avid users of Olympus OM systems, David and I. And not one person said, "Wow, they're kind of expensive for what they are." Nobody said that. They all looked at the camera and they're like, only one person kind of came up and was thinking, they were a little concerned about the noise levels, right? Because they were doing bird and flight type stuff, and they were using an APS-C camera, and they wanted to get something better than they had. That was because it was, I think. Anyway, uh, so I said, look, here, use my camera for this particular photo op. Just take all the pictures you want, take your SD card out, and then take it home, and then you can look at the noise levels for the kind of images. And then, the next time I saw her, she had, I think it was an OM1, right? And still using it to this day. And this was about a year ago, not too, maybe it was about a year ago. Uh, Still using it and is a big enthusiast and fan of OM systems. So, I think when people start using the camera, it's that initial buy-in though, right? I see where you're coming from. If you don't own a camera now and you're thinking about buying a camera, you might think, if you watch YouTube, everybody's gonna dump on Micro Four Thirds for the image quality, which is totally wrong in my opinion. But uh, there was a time when the Micro Four Thirds systems were significantly cheaper than the APS-C and full frame equivalents, right? But that time has passed. Now everything is about the same price and delivering similar image quality across the board. I mean, everything is good now and about the same price. But like I said, the R6 Mark II is a good example. It's a fabulous camera for about the same price as all-in-one, you know. Uh, or the Nikon, what is it? The Nikon needs to catch up a little bit. Their Z7 is a little dated. Their Z6 II, you can get a Z6 II. They're getting a little dated, I think, behind the all-in-one in terms of capability, in my opinion. But um, Canon certainly, Sony certainly have kept up their systems and brought the prices down, and they're very competitive. But there's definitely some compromises, in my opinion. Uh, I can't name them off the top of my head. I just know when I use those cameras, when I use my Sony camera, it's really frustrating, and I have to just stop when I'm using that camera and just go back to, okay, I'm just gonna put this in aperture priority and just shoot and just not worry about what's in the menu because there's so many different settings. I find that if I just try not to overthink it and just use the camera as a camera, um, I get better results and I can concentrate a little better. But I'm kind of a nerd too. I'm like, this camera can do all these different things. How do I take advantage of this feature or do this feature? How am I going to tweak this setting so I get a little bit? And when I start doing that, I start losing. I just start getting frustrated with it because the menu system is so wonky. It makes no sense to me at all. Um, Marcia, hooray! I'm glad you're here, Marcia. You guys are so patient with me. I can't believe anybody's here at all because my streams are always effed up every freaking week. Either no sound or choppy or the video quality is terrible. Okay, and then if full frame ever gets size weight of a pen app, I might jump. Oh, that new whatchamacallit, the Panasonic S9, I think it's called. Really small little full frame camera coming out. Looks like it's supposed to be smaller than the X100V, yet full frame. And of course, the Sony A7C Mark II and A7CR are very small, compact cameras. They're only like 500 or 600 grams, and they're relatively small dimension-wise. But the lenses just get heavy, all of it, or they can get. I mean, if you stick with the f2.5s and 2.8s or whatever, primes, you can keep them relatively compact. Uh, and they're relatively affordable. I think the A7C is like 2000 and the A7CR is 3000. Nice little cameras. And then, 500, 600 bucks for a lens. I mean, it adds up pretty quick, right? But I think we're there already, to be honest, in terms of full frame cameras. The bodies at least are pretty much the same size as an all-in-one. Nothing. I think the new S9 coming out will be about the size of the Pen app, but they made compromises to make it that small, right? It's electronic shutter only. There's no EVF. Uh, but other than that, it seems to be fine. And APS-C seems like a sweet spot, I guess. Honestly, APS-C, I don't see what advantages it offers over Micro Four Thirds. I think in terms of even noise performance, it's so slight between the two formats. You really have to jump from four thirds, Micro Four Thirds to full frame to see any difference. And you have to pixel peak quite a bit, and you have to shoot at very high ISOs to see the difference. If you're shooting at like ISO 3200 or lower, uh, post-processing fixes is kind of like the great equalizer. DxO to me is the great equalizer of cameras in terms of noise performance. And yeah, George, sorry, I've been struggling all day with this, not all day, but all afternoon, trying to get the stream working. And even now, I'm sure the sound is not great, but it's all I got. I wonder if I plug my mic into the computer instead of this stupid thing. I wonder if that would sound better. It's like I shouldn't mess with it because everything's working now, right? Where's the mic jack? See if that does anything. Nope, it's not using that mic. What if I choose? How about this mic? No, I can't get this mic to work. So I'll leave it here just in case it is the right mic. Uh, Sometimes a feature is the deciding factor. Olympus Live Comp won me over. Star AF was also a secondary factor. I left the Canon ecosystem for those this year. Oh yeah, definitely. Live comp is really a lot of fun. If you really get into it, you can do so many things. Like I used it for the Smoke Ninja a little bit. I don't think I shared any of the pictures I took using live comp because I didn't get really great results. And that's more about technique than it is the feature, right? But yeah, live comp is awesome. Sky AF works really well. And it says, well, your tests and photography have saved me thousands in compulsive gas. I will, however, be getting a GR3, hopefully four, for street photography. I just feel more comfortable with being discreet. Yeah, maybe. So that brings me to oh wow, sorry, Marco, you're going to the well, I'm glad you dropped in and said hello. If you're watching this after the fact, thanks for dropping in. Um Marco's a good guy. You guys are all great, actually. I really am so lucky to have an audience like you guys. Um, what are your thoughts on body cap lenses? I see Olympus discontinuing the nine, and I have both Olympus and purchased the 18 millimeter seven artisans. I'm, body cap lenses are kind of ironically to me, are kind of a luxury. Matter of fact, I got one right here, the 15 body cap that I was thinking about taking out. Image quality wise, these don't hold a candle to, the other, like a normal prime, right? And so that's why I call these a luxury item because why would you spend $100 for a body cap You know, uh, and even if it does function on a lens, the lens quality is not great. It's okay, but yeah, spending anywhere from I bought this. This is the 15. I only paid like $30 or $40 for this. Got it on sale or something. But even $30 for a body cap, forget the lens part, makes this a luxury body cap, right? But what I really mean by this is kind of a luxury item, or this is the kind of thing you buy when you just want to try it out. You know, it's like what's the word I'm looking to? If you got any disposable income, this is when you buy something like this. You don't buy this because you need a lens, right? You buy this because you have disposable income for something like this. Meaning it's just an accessory that you want to try out or want to have fun with. This is not a necessity by any means. Uh, but the images are okay. Like if you like to use the art filters and things, this is a great lens to use with those because it just amplifies all of the defects that art filters put into the image, you know. And it's also great for just letting you focus on your photography, right? Because you know you're not going to get a technically perfect image. You're not going to get a super sharp image. And in all, if even if it is at its sharpest point, it might be out of focus. Things like that, right? This is the kind of lens that uh, you take out just to so you can really focus on your photography and have fun. This is a total unnecessary item. That's what I think about body cap lenses. It's kind of a luxury, frivolous item that nobody really needs. Nobody needs a $30 or $100 body cap or $70 like the TT Artisans. I have that one too for my Fuji. Uh, you know, these lenses are just for fun. It's not these are just luxury items, and they also make great gifts. Too bad they're discontinuing these. Like if you know an Olympus shooter or uh, that doesn't have the body cap lenses, these make great gifts too, right? Because no serious photographer would buy a lens like this. But if they got one as a gift, they'd probably have a lot of fun with it, you know? So that's what I mean. They're kind of just fun little things that if you have some disposable income for it, just get one and have fun with it. But you would never take lenses like this seriously, right? What do you think about OM students need to do to get everybody excited about all new camera lens? Wow, that's a tough question. Uh, because they just released their 150 to 600, and a lot of people like that lens. A lot of people think it's too expensive for what it is, but um, I don't know, to be honest. I mean, the average person only buys one lens with their camera. If you look at the statistics, it's like one or one and a half lenses. So they get their kit lens and maybe one other lens. The enthusiast photographer, they'll get multiple lenses. And for an enthusiast to get excited about a lens, I think I can't think of too many lenses that people get excited about. Uh, the 150 to 600 and the 150 to 400, I think generate kind of their own excitement because of what they can do. So the lens has to do something that no other lens that they make does. For example, Eric brought up a great point a couple of weeks ago in one of the comments that you can't find hardly any reviews on the Olympus 9 to 18 millimeter, the new one that came out, right? Which is just a rebadged old 9 to 18 millimeter. And Emily just had, I saw a thumbnail for her on her channel about the 9 to 18. I haven't watched it yet, but uh, nobody got excited about that lens because it's the same thing, right? That came out. And that's my point. If it's hard to get excited about one lens, but I think if they announce a plethora of lenses coming out, because think about like when other manufacturers talk about lenses, they said they'll have like five, six, or eight lenses on their roadmap. They say, okay, these are the five or six lenses coming out. This is the first one in that series. Like the Panasonic S line or L mount. They got the 1.8 trio, the 35, the 50, and the 85. Three excellent lenses, and I think photographers, like I was excited about that. I'm like, man, the 50 is awesome. So I have no problem getting the 35 and the 80 if I needed those focal lengths or one of those focal lengths for my L mount camera. Uh, so I think they need to release some in batches rather than like one-offs here and there. I mean, I get it. The 150 to 600 to 150 to 400, those were kind of one-offs anyway. But if they could, like if Olympus or Ohm Systems said, we're going to release a whole new line of f1.4s, right, for the Ohm system, and they're going to be small and compact as we can make them, and they're going to be weather sealed. And we're going to start with the 17 millimeter. Just imagine how I would be so excited, right? I mean, I don't even care about weather sealing, but if they said we're going to offer some weather sealed 1.4 primes and we're going to start with the 17, and then in a few months or 6 months, the 25 is coming, and then the 45 is coming, 1.4s, weather sealed, primes. I leave a comment if you think that would get you excited. I would be so excited if they said they're going to release and they're going to be priced less than their pro lenses. Like they're not going to be at pro level prices, right? It's okay. Make a couple of compromises. I'm fine if they're a little bit soft wide open, but you know, they're not going to do that. They're going to make great lenses. But I would be so excited if they said that. So that to me would be, for me, what I would get excited about. Because how many 1.4 primes are there out there? Panasonic has a couple. Poor Ellie, she's down there just having, she's chasing somebody in her dreams. She's like growling and stuff. I should wake her up and snap her out of it. Could be a bad dream. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, Panasonic has the 12 millimeter f1.4. They got the 25 1.4. Uh, they might have some others. That's all I can think of. I'm not talking about the 1.2 Pro lenses that they both have. But I would love to see like a trio, like a Trinity announced, and I would get excited about that. So let me know in the comments. I'm curious what you guys would like to see. What would get you excited? Is it one lens or would like a trio of lenses? I think that they have to kind of come out in a batch. If they come out one at a time, it's very hard to get excited about one lens because it may be in a focal length I don't care about. Like if they said we're going to release a brand new 45 1.4 and they don't say they're going to release a 25 and a 17. If they just talk about that one lens, I'm like, that's nice, but I'm not going to buy it because I'm happy with the 45 1.8 and I don't care about weather sealing. And if they said they're going to announce a 17 millimeter 1.4 weather sealed, that I would be a little more excited about, but I wouldn't be ecstatic. But if they said we're doing 17, 25, and 45, a trio, I'd be like, now that is freaking awesome. I would be excited about that. Even though I may not buy all three, I'll just probably get the 17 or the if they can come out with a 14 millimeter 1.4. Oh my God, I would be so happy. Um, because that gives us the 28 millimeter equivalent. But that was a great question. Tough one, tough one. I had to think about that, but I think, yeah, that would be my answer. Let's see. Where is Why is the chat section all the way back to 2:30 like an hour ago? Um, so that's the body cap question. Any thoughts on the rumored effectively it's here new Panasonic rangefinder small full frame? We wish they would do the same for M43, but perhaps never again. Yeah. I think for me the problem with that camera is there's no EVF. The fact that it has a flip out screen does help. I can almost live with a camera without the EVF if the screen tilts or flips. I don't care which, really. Uh, but the key is, and they announced that they're going to do a couple lenses. The 28 millimeter f8 or whatever that is, they're gonna give away with it for free, supposedly, according to the 43 Rumors guy. Um, that to me seems like a mistake. Why would you drop an f8 lens? It's basically a body cap lens at this point, right? A 28 f8. Uh, people are not gonna. I don't think people are gonna go for that. They'll get it for free, and then you're gonna see them on the used market for like $1. Ugh. I mean, I personally, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I'm fine with f8 lenses if they're body caps like this. I'm okay with it. Uh, but that's a serious camera. A compact full frame S9, that's a serious camera. And then to put on a lens that's so not serious as a 28 f8, that doesn't make sense to me. I feel like that, they should like look at look at like the 28 millimeter f 1.8s or f 2.8s, right? From other manufacturers, like the Nikon Z 28 2, I think it's a 2.8. What is it? Nikon, let me look it up real quick. It's a 2.8. That's pretty compact little lens, right? Um, this one, $229. I mean, it doesn't even cost that much. Brand new, it's $280, and now it's not $230 on sale. They need to announce things like this. And it's not totally pancake, but it's small enough, right? So if they announce a trio of lenses like a 28, a 40, maybe an 85, 2.8s that are small like that, that would be great and optically very good on top of that, of course. But to announce it with a 28 f8 body cap lens, essentially it's a body cap lens. That to me was a mistake. Um, that part. But I like the camera. I like the idea of the camera. I just think the lack of EVF is kind of almost a deal breaker for me anyway. On a camera like that, if it had the EVF, I would be seriously tempted by it because I love the L mount glass. The L mount glass that you can get from Panasonic, like I said, their trio of 50, 35, and 85 1.8s that they make are amazing. And now they got the 100 millimeter macro. I mean, they are just hitting it out of the park. And those lenses are optically amazing. I mean, so sharp. Yeah, very clinical. I get it. But when you have a serious camera, you want serious lenses, right? You can always buy the third party crap to get and I use that term loosely. They're not really crap. They're actually really nice lenses in third party. Like Filtrox makes amazingly sharp lenses with decent autofocus. Um, I just wish they would start making them for Micro Four Thirds. Uh, but then you look at some of the TT Artisan lenses. the manual focus in particular that, I think are great options for people. You don't have to buy vintage glass anymore. You can just buy like a manual focus uh, TP Artisans or 7 Artisans lens and get pretty much that same vintage optics brand new. You don't have to worry about fungus growing and scratches and the lens coatings deteriorating. You can just buy a brand new one. So there's a lot of great manual focus lenses from those guys for Micro Four Thirds. Uh, but they seem to be pumping out more APS-C type stuff lately. But I like the camera, but for me it's just without the EVF, it's a little bit of a deal breaker. And and the price point is supposed to be what, like under $1,700? So it's gonna kill. It's not gonna kill. See, think about it. A7C Mark II has 33 megapixel sensor, has an EVF, an amazing autofocus, and it's very small and compact. Uh, won't be as small and compact as this S9, but it also has a mechanical shutter, EVF. It has a lot more going for it, and it costs more. It's $2,000. I don't know if any serious photographer would buy the S9 as their primary, as their first camera or as a replacement to something else that they're using. They might buy it as an add-on, right? They'll say, okay, let me take this camera out for fun because I like the colors. I feel like it's it just doesn't feel like it should be anybody's first camera. It makes a great second camera, kind of like the Pen F, right? The Pen F, it should be your first and only camera, or I think it makes it better as a second camera. Uh, Particularly now that it's like 8 years old or whatever, it makes a great second camera. But yeah, I think the lack of EVF bothers me a little bit. No reason not to carry 9 millimeter body cap lens. Yeah, other than they cost $100, and if you lose it, you're out $100. Uh, what do you think OMC to get? Oh, I just talked about that. Sorry. Having come from Canon, Jim Wilson, having come from Canon to OM, now I'm extremely pleased to compare the price of OM to the R5. I wish I had swapped systems years ago. Taken a bit getting used to, but I really like M43. Yeah, exactly. See, this is what I mean. There are people out there that are converts, right? They were using some other system, and then they bit the bullet. They took a risk and said, "I'm going to go with Micro Four Thirds," right? Um, and they really like it, just like Jim here. Sometimes you really connect with a camera, right, or system, and it's like exactly what you want and does everything you need, right? And a few compromises you might have with a smaller system in terms of image quality are greatly offset by this connection that you have with the system, for whatever reason that might be. For me, it's just overall, it's just a smaller system. Let's see. All new super zoom lens from Home System is not cheaper than full frame super zoom from Nikon. I do agree the majority of professional quality primes for Olympus are cheaper. Yeah, another example that came to mind when I was thinking about the price difference between the Sigma 150 to 600 and the Olympus or OM System 150 to 600 is you look at the Panasonic L mount 35 millimeter f1.8 or 50, and then compare that to the Leica 35 millimeter f1.8. They are essentially the same lens. Let me see if I can pull this up. Uh, Panasonic 35 f1.8. So this lens is $600, right? And then Just change this to Leica Alma. Look at the difference in price. This is the 35, and everyone knows these are basically the same lens. Apparently, Leica did tweak it a little bit on the well, hold on. Is this the same lens or not? Yeah, these are the same. Look at what do you really, and I've seen online comparisons between those two lenses, and there is a very, 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 very slight difference optically between these two lenses. And that could be just basically sample variation. Uh, you know, but if you took 10 Panasonic versions and 10 Leica versions, put them side by side, and did the same test over and over again, I bet ultimately the differences will average out, and you're just paying three times the cost. So that's even a bigger disparity between, and that was a used price. See, I didn't even show you the new price. This is a used price, 18. This is the brand new price, 21.95 versus this. So it's like more than three times, almost four times the price. And they are the same lens, basically. Uh, so OM Systems 150 to 600 now it doesn't look like it's that much more expensive than the Sigma version if you look at it that way. But it's not the first time that somebody will take the same design and jack the price up. Because what is it that the Leica is doing to make it worth three and a half times the price? When you look at the side by side comparisons, there's really no difference. But some of the new lenses that Home System has introduced lately have been more expensive than full frame lenses. Leave me scratching my head. What's going on here? Uh, what have they? The 150 to 600 is, yeah, comes to mind, right? And then the 9018 is $700. What's a full frame equivalent? 18. It's tough. I don't know. I can't think of the lens you're referring to off the top of my head. But what that tells me basically is full frame prices have come down. I don't see the everything's gone up, right? But I feel like as everything's gone up, full frame lens prices have come down. They're not going up quite as fast, or they're coming out at lower price points. Uh, but yeah, everything's just ridiculous expensive these days. I was thinking the body cap lenses were a novelty and perhaps for Lomo photography. Yeah, like the art filters and things in our cameras. They're great for that. Absolutely. First time caller, long time listener cut. I haven't heard that in a long time. Not since I used to watch Frasier on remember Frasier? I love that show. Thank you for the M10 Mark II videos that started my photography habit after buying Olympus April 2020 pandemic fire sale. Oh, well, you're welcome. I'm glad. The EM10 Mark II is such an awesome camera. I'm using it right now for the live stream. This has been my live stream camera for the last few years because I wore it out to the point that it's very difficult to use in the field. I broke the battery door for one, and the couple other little things that are wrong with it, but it still works great and it's perfect as a streaming cam. So I bought the M10 Mark II for 300 bucks with the kit lens. Wow. Since then, I've purchased maybe seven other Olympus lenses and the OM1 and the TG6 and the Sony RX10 Mark 7. RX10 7. What is that? Is that the is that little pocket camera RX10? Oh, that's the bridge camera, isn't it? Maybe you mean the RX1, because I see the RX10 is up to a Mark 4. The RX1, or is it 100? The RX 100. I think you meant the RX 100 Mark 7, which is this one. Yeah, that one there. Wow, look at the prices of these. I can get a used one for 800. Man, they're pricey. Nice little camera though, no question. I am tempted slightly by the Sony ZV-1F, not the 1F. I'm sorry, the Sony ZV-1 that has the uh 24 to 70 lens on it. It has a really nice Zeiss f1.8 lens. I'm tempted with the 1 inch sensor and it's compact. The only thing is it doesn't have the EVF like the RX 100. But I think for something that tiny, and then you know what it is though. Every time I take out my little Panasonic LX5 or my TG5, I don't my gas for the Sony 1 inch sensor kind of goes away because the TG5 is you have the TG6. These are great little compact cameras, and I bought that over buying the X100 because at the time I was shopping for a smaller camera, and the X100 is not that small, really, not as small as the TG5 anyway. And I ended up with a TG5 instead of getting an X100. I said, why carry like this expensive big ass camera when I can get a TG5 that's waterproof and durable and yada yada. So the TG5 is awesome. I got to show you guys some tests that I did. David Crook asked me if I could compare all of my cameras at ISO 800. So I'll pull that up for you. I actually started doing this testing. But you got a great deal, Phantom. Great deal. 300 bucks. If I could buy a brand new Mark II right now for 300 bucks, I get tempted time to time to buy another Mark II. Maybe silver this time because I have a black one. But you know what stops me from buying the EM10 Mark II is I have an EM5 Mark II, which is awesome. Um, so here we go. So I have all these tests here. These are at ISO 3200, and these are the exported JPEGs. But I didn't do any processing other than optical corrections on these. But here's the TG5, and let me open this up in where is it? Um, Here, showing Explorer. So here's TG5 at ISO 3200. And of course, you can see at ISO 3200, there's a ton of noise here, but it cleans up nicely because if I um if I go all the way zoomed in, you can still read all the numbers and stuff on this box. And this is with no noise reduction applied. But if I went in and I applied noise reduction to this image, it would be freaking amazing. Actually, let me do that right now. I have to find the raw. This is what file number 8. So TG5. Where's the raws at? Down here. Okay. Listen, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try this one. Short. Context. ISO test. Select folder. So we're doing full res. Preserve colors 100%. So I'm gonna export that, and then let's pick. Where's my Sony? The Sony 1600, 3200. So I'm going to apply the same noise reduction to the Sony. This is the Sony A7R5. Apply, just to see the contrast and or lack thereof. We'll apply the same noise reduction preset, export, and call it. So noise reduction. Okay. Um, so I think this is the new one. All right, so we'll compare this with the old. So this is the TG5. See, file number 8. Look at the look at how nicely that cleaned up from ISO 3200 straight out of camera versus noise reduction. And all of the fine details are pretty much still there. Got a little choppy here where it says tilt shift lens. So that's a little sketchy there. But let me just back out. So we're at 200% uh, magnification. Now let's compare this with the Sony file I just generated. So these are both noise reductions applied. Wow, look at that, man. No question. Of course, this is a 60 megapixel file versus 12 megapixels, but this is what I mean by when I was saying how, software and processing is like the great equalizer. Uh, and let me zoom into 500. Well, can't do that with this. But when you look at this at normal distances, like normal viewing sizes, I should say, not distance, these both look really good, right? And if I were to process this one on the left a little bit more, like adjusted the contrast and sharpening a little bit, I could get this to look very, very close to the Sony. But all I did was a simple preset with noise reduction. Like down in here, this color chart, they look virtually identical. And again, this is ISO 3200, right? And we're talking about a tiny, tiny little, let's compare the TG5 versus the raw output on the Sony. Yeah, that Sony is pretty amazing. This is the raw 3200 output from the Sony. Let's compare it against the raw output of the OM1. Yeah, look at the OM1, and these are kit lenses, okay? I didn't use like pro glass or anything. I used the kit lens on the OM1. I think it says this here. Yeah, 14 to 42 f3.5. This is the kit lens, but I dare say the TG5 cleaned up pretty nicely. It looks a little better than the OM1 once it's cleaned up. But clearly 20 megapixels is going to out-resolve 12, right? Because the TG5 is just a 12 megapixel camera. So that has a lot to do with why we're not seeing quite as much detail here. So yeah, where's I lost my chat window. Hope everybody's still here. I forget what prompted me to look at that, but yeah, so the TG5 is such an amazing little camera. I've gotten amazing images, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier about I don't care about megapixels anymore. The kind of images that I can get with a 12 megapixel, a 10 megapixel camera like my LX5, with the right processing, I can get just a nice image as I can with a $4,000 Sony A7R5. For all intents and purposes, I get just a good image. If you're doing hardcore pro work, art reproduction, I get it. You want to resolve every single pixel. Then yeah, high res, would do. But then we have high res shot mode on there. Anyway, that's why I don't worry about megapixels anymore or noise for that matter. Because I'm not shooting at ISO 3200 that often uh, on my OM1, which will clean up perfectly. And the TG5 though, I will shoot at higher ISOs time to time. Uh, because lighting is not always great when I've been using that camera, but in good light, it does an amazing job. Jim says, I couldn't wait for the 90 macro 2x with autofocus. What a great lens, expensive, but worth it for me. Yeah, that's what's kind of holding me off from the 60 millimeter. I mean, I get it. The 60 millimeter right now is on sale for 399, and it's an amazing lens for that price. Like it is punching well above its weight. But the 90 is out there too. If I can get a good deal on a used 90 millimeter, let's say I pay double, right? Let's say I pay $800 for a used 90 millimeter macro. I'm getting double the magnification, so I kind of, you can kind of justify things when you want something, right? Um, yeah, I'm tempted to get the 90 macro myself, really bad. Um, and then adapting vintage and cheap lenses can add some fun to your photography. They don't all have to be great IQ. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. I've been using my OM lenses on my Sony camera, and it's a lot of fun. It really just makes the Sony has really good, well, they all have focus peaking, but uh, with the focus peaking, it makes using manual focus lenses pretty easy. And the OM lenses are so good. I got them right here, actually. Whoops, dropped all my stuff. This is the 24 2.8 with the Sony adapter on it. This is going to be a lot of fun to use. I've used this on my Pen F. I have a vlog with this lens on my Pen F. But it'll be interesting to see how it works on my Sony. I've taken a few shots with it. They look fine. Some vignetting, right? But it has a very vintage characteristic, right? Vintage lenses. So they're not optically perfect. They're perfectly imperfect, I guess is the word. Somebody else coined that phrase. I didn't just make that up. Perfectly imperfect. Oh, the 25 1.4. That is such an awesome lens. I mean, blind test side by side, sometimes it's hard to tell the difference, but when you're using that lens and you're taking your pictures with it, that's when you see the difference. Is using that lens and really just enjoying that wide open f1.4. It's slightly soft. Mine is still really sharp even at 1.4, but because by f4, f5.6, that lens is like just cutting, like cut your retinas in half kind of sharp, like a ninja. It's so good. But at 1.4, that's where the magic is. It's like it just renders things so beautifully. I just love that lens. And it's great on my EM5 Mark II and my OM1. I don't like it on my Pen F so much. It's just kind of an awkward lens on that camera for some reason. 3 to 4 new fully weather sealed 1.4 premium prime lens would be very exciting news if that happened. Totally agree with you. Yeah, see, that's awesome. I think that would be awesome myself. The 75 is on my wish list. Yeah, that lens is probably their sharpest lens ever. If you look at some thumbnails on YouTube about that lens, they'll tell you this is the sharpest lens ever, right? The hyperbolic thumbnails, but it really is a good lens. It really is sharp, and I struggle using it because it's just too long for me. Because it's a 150 millimeter equivalent. It's too long to kind of just walk around with sometimes. I struggle with that focal length a lot. I shouldn't. I mean, it's the same as any focal length in its own way, but uh, I don't use it as much as I thought I would. Because if you're doing portraits, you have to stand like, quite a bit far away for portraits. And for anything else, the focal length is so tight. It might be interesting for landscapes though, which I don't do enough of. But I could see using it in landscape a lot, where you're just sectioning out a part of the landscape that's interesting. It would be great for that. And S9, I think, is marketed more for video folks, influencers, not for photographers overall. Yeah, I mean, the fact that there's no EVF is a big indication of that. No, no, no mechanical shutter. At this point, we're not ready for all electronic, except maybe that new A9 with the global shutter. But um, I can't believe the market for vloggers and videographers is that big. And if it is, Sony has locked it in. It's going to be hard for Panasonic to come in with a full frame camera. Because if it compromises the usability for a vlogger, they're not going to care how good the image quality is. They can't use it in the field. So something like the ZV-1, the 1F, the ZV-F Mark II or whatever, all of those are amazing vlogging cameras. Even if like it's the 360 Go I showed you earlier is an amazing, amazing vlogging camera. I don't know how they think they're going to compete with that. And the fact that it's coming in all these colors, I don't know. We'll see how it goes if it sells. Because look at like the X100V, right? Or VI or X106. That is photocentric camera, clearly, and it's selling like hotcakes. To make a video centric camera, I don't see it being marketed that way makes sense to me. It would be a mistake on their part. They should. We'll see. I don't know. That brings the question, is the Leica look a myth? I don't think it is. The Leica look, a lot of it's up here, right? I mean, there's certainly a lot of, I'm shooting with a Leica and I got a Leica lens and camera, but I've shot with the Leica Q2 and there is a difference. It's very subtle, very subtle. Uh, so, because I've looked at images side by side, taken with camera A and a Leica, and in a blind test, it's hard to see the differences. But it's like that 25 millimeter 1.4, which is like a branded lens. I don't know if really like a quality, but uh, side by side, it's hard to see a big difference, right? I have a great example on my Flickr page, actually. Um, Let me find it real quick. So these are images I took with, so I have this album here, Panasonic 25 millimeter 1.4. I only have 22 photos in here, but these are the images that I've taken with that lens. And I just love it. I think they're just beautiful, these images. So this is the one I wanted to show you. Here's a comparison where I have the Panasonic. This is the cheapest one, the 25 1.7, the Olympus 25 1.8, and the Leica 25 1.4, all side by side, wide open. Can you really see that much difference? Not a lot. You can see the depth of field difference, right? Because I'm at 1.4 versus 1.8. But let me put a link to this in the chat section. Um, that way you guys don't have to search for it. You can just click on that link and go right to it. And then I put them all at 2.8. So here's two images side by side at 2.8 with the Olympus versus the Leica. It's very subtle, the difference. And it's mostly in the background blur. It's a little less busy on the Leica. It's just a little softer. And then if you look at uh here's the Panasonic and the Olympus side by side. Virtually identical. I can't see any difference between these two lenses here. Trust me, these are different pictures, okay? Ellie's such a good girl. She just sits there still for me while I take her picture. But yeah, check that out. And then down here we're all at f4. But if I didn't label these, right? If I just showed you these pictures, it would be hard. It would be hard, right, to tell the difference uh, between all these images. But it's when you go out and you shoot with them, because I shot a lot with the 25 1.8, and I've shot quite a bit now with the 25 1.4. And I can tell you the 25 1.4 is just so much nicer, the images that I get from it overall. But I can't put my finger on it. And this is kind of like with the Leica. There's something about the Leica colors and the tonality of the black and whites and the rendition of their lenses. There's something just a little bit different, you know. And when I post things, and Eric, I think it was Eric that left that comment. When you look at the images on my Flickr page, and I do these side by side comparisons of these lenses and cameras, immediately you're like, wow, there's not that much difference, right? So, like you said earlier, you're very content. You're more content now with your own one purchase. You don't feel like you're missing out, and you're really not. You're really not. But there are very subtle differences in certain things, like the Leica cameras. It's very subtle, but there's a difference. Um, yeah, see, the Great Van Zena says he likes them, but just little differences. But now that you can buy them used for about the same price as the Olympus glass, right? Because used prices on Micro Four Thirds, that's one of the few things that hasn't like skyrocketed in price, are the used prices on Micro Four Thirds. There's probably some exceptions there, but you can get some great deals on Micro Four Thirds cameras and lenses, unlike just about everything else out there. It says my 1.4 has moved from the 100 to 400 to 150 as long as there's enough light. I have no idea what you mean. Oh, amazing. Yeah, yeah, from the when I was showing that earlier, right? It's pretty amazing. And the March is asking, Rob Track, does the 100, 400 almost, yeah, it does. It does take teleconverters. David Crooks uses them a lot. You can call him and talk to him about it if you want. Um, I mean, I wouldn't use the 2.0 converter. I think the 1.4 is enough. Uh, Especially if you're at 400 millimeters and then you do that by 1.4, that's more than enough reach. If you need more reach than that, you run into other problems, right? Like atmospheric distortion and stuff. Oh yeah, Bob is saying the same thing. It does, but stay with the 1.4. Yeah, I agree, 100% there. Oh, and then Dave Dial, that's what you mean by the 1.4. You were talking about the teleconverter, because I was talking about the Leica 25 1.4 at the same time. So I'm the one not keeping up with the chat. And the Grave Ancina says, I'm actually more interested in the new rumored Leica Deluxe 8, but I'm betting the price. I think the Leica Deluxe 8 is going to be the same thing as this LX102. But I don't know. I haven't heard the latest rumor, but the previous rumor I heard about that is that it's going to be pretty much the same thing as this. And this camera, I'm still taking pictures and testing it. It has a lot of really, really nice features in it. The challenge I'm having it with this is the colors and the lack of tilt screen. This is the biggest. I can't believe how much I miss that, being able to tilt or flip the screen. That is something that, and Eric, if you're thinking about the GR3 or GR4, this is a big deal, not being able to tilt, at least for me. I am really struggling. Of all the things that, of all the negatives about this camera that I could talk about, and they're not deal breakers by any means, but this is the only one is this this not being able to tilt. Because a lot of people complain about the EVF. I'm fine with the EVF. My eyes, for some reason, don't have a problem with the. A lot of people complain about it, but I'm not having any issue with it. I find it clear and fine. But not being able to tilt is really killing me. It's making it so hard because I like to do low angle shots a lot of the times. The other thing about this camera is the color science, and I'm talking about the raw images, right? Because JPEGs you can kind of tweak with the different profiles they have, but the color science is a little bit off for me in a way that I don't like. They have a slight greenish. It's not green, but it's a lack of reds in it. The reds are very muted in this camera. So what happens is the blues and the greens are pushed, are just come up forward a little bit more. And it just makes kind of I think Robin Wong even mentioned that when he reviewed this camera. He said something about the color science was not right to him. And now I see what it is. So I created a profile that corrects all of that. And now I'm getting great colors out of it. But before, I was struggling a little bit with the colors because I would take pictures and I was like, I mean, they weren't great pictures to begin with, but they were definitely the colors were the biggest distraction for me. They are definitely not true to life colors. Okay, some people love that color science that's coming out of it. It's kind of a muted, the reds are muted a little bit, the blues are pushed, the greens are about right, but the blues are slightly saturated and the reds are slightly pulled back on this, is what I found. And so I created a preset to correct for that, and now the colors look really good. And now I'm able to take some pictures with this without stressing over the color science. Black and whites are fine. The tonality, the sharpness of the lens, everything about this camera, it has so many nice features in it, are great. So If the Leica Deluxe 8 is the same as this, don't buy the Deluxe 8, just buy this. Even though this is still expensive, they're still asking like $900 for this. You can get the version one for about four or $500. I think either one is fine, but try to get the version two. It's better in some significant ways. More megapixels for one, but something with the video and a couple other things. I can't remember specifically why I kind of ruled out the version one of this camera, but it's great. So I'm gonna try and do a review on this camera. Like, I'll try not to make a clickbaity thumbnail for it, You know, the LX100 is still good in 2024. No, is it still worth it in 2024? I don't know. Uh, let's see. I don't know what thumbnail I'll make for it or title. Let's see. I might fall into that trap and make one that's kind of clickbaity. But for you guys that know me already, I'm not kind of a hyperbolic guy in my videos anyway. I try to be a more laid back and um, okay. Supposedly Leica didn't work with painting on the 8. Interesting. We'll see when it comes out. I am curious if it is going to be different than, like, significantly different than this camera. That could be very interesting. I might consider getting one if it's very different from this. We'll have to see. And then Eric says, only time I tilt is from macro. That being said, I should use the Home One's tilt to improve my perspectives. Yeah. Don't shoot at eye level too often. Try and shoot at different angles, low and high. Lower is better generally. Because you're taking pictures of animals and kids, you want to be at eye level with those particular subjects. And plant life, flowers, usually everything is lower. Uh, there's very little reason to shoot up high, unless you're trying to get over a crowd or something of people in front of you. But the most interesting things are really down low, at least for me. And getting lower also is a better perspective architecturally, because then you get less. It just looks, it's hard to describe, but doing architectural photography, you try to shoot a little bit lower than, not even lower than waist level. I like to shoot much lower for architectural type photography. The perspective is just more natural, I think, or at least more interesting. Is there a noticeable difference between the 2.8 lenses and OM 1.4 lens for street photography and night photography, astro moonshot? Or I'm okay with the Mark II 12 to 42.8 Pro. Uh, I think you might be referring to the Panasonic 12 millimeter 1.4. Um, yeah, okay. So on the OM1, right? Did you say you have the OM1 or you're just talking about the lenses? Well, anyway, typically with these kind of, let's talk about the astro part first. For astrophotography, a lot of people say get the fastest lens you can and then yada yada, right? So you can leave the shutter open longer. But the problem is, uh, usually, depending where you are on the planet, it varies, right? But usually you can only get about 15, 20 seconds of shutter length uh, when you're doing astrophotography. So being able to shoot at, say, ISO, 1600 at 1.4 is certainly going to be better than shooting at ISO, say, 3200 or 6400 at f2.8. So in that sense, it can make a big difference because you're only going to get about 15 to 30 seconds, well, with a 12 millimeter, probably about 15 seconds of shutter time in a single shot, and you can shoot at like, and if it's a really dark sky, you want to shoot it around ISO 1000, right? So yeah, it can make a big difference for single shot astrophotography. If you're just taking one shot or two shots, uh, then the faster lenses. But if you're doing multiple images and stacking them and doing some hardcore processing, like most astrophotographers will do, you're fine with the 2.8, okay? Because the noise difference levels between the 1.4 and the 2.8, when you start stacking 20 to 40 or 50, 100 images or thousands of images in some cases, that difference is negated quite a bit in post-processing. And this goes back to what I was saying about everything with photography these days. It's all about the processing. You know, processing is the great equalizer between all cameras and sensors and things. But yeah, now for street photography, not much difference because generally, street photography, depending what kind, if you're talking about shooting people on the move and stuff, um, you probably want to be at 2.8 f4. A lot of street photographers shoot at f5.6, f8, so they get everything in focus because they want to tell the story of the scene. They want to include all of the elements in their composition. They don't want anything really too out of focus when they're doing street photography. So in that scenario, shooting at f4, f5.6, what's the point of having an f1.4 lens? It's better to have the 2.8. So that's that's kind of the differences. So I think really the best answer is stick with the 2.8 that you have. And for street photography, it's fine because you're f4, f5.6 anyway. And for astrophotography, you need to learn how to process and stack multiple images. Because you can probably stack about 20, maybe 20 images at a time to get started before you really start to need a tracker, right? Depending on what you're taking a picture of. Uh, but you can get away at 12 millimeters, taking about 20 images, 15 seconds each, then repositioning your camera and aligning it. You know, it's there's some skill, there's a skill set involved in astrophotography, but ultimately you're going to get better results than using a 1.4 lens and taking a single shot at 15 seconds than you will stacking multiple images. And the difference in ISO that you have at that point doesn't matter. Returning to the topic of Panasonic 25 1.4 versus the 1.7, lens tip indicates that the Leica 1.4 has better resolution versus the 1. Okay. Yeah, lens tip is pretty reliable, I think. I've gone to their site time to time. That's good to know. It's good to know it's not just me, but someone else thinks so. So I feel Olympus now on one reds are horrible, almost overblown. I guess that can be fixed in camera by under focusing it or in post. I haven't found the reds to be bad myself. Uh, but red generally, a lot of cameras struggle with. Like you're taking a picture of a rose, they do tend to be very strong. Red is kind of the strongest wavelength. It's at the lowest frequency or whatever. There's some scientific reasons for this, right? Reds are very strong colors to the camera, and I do have to dial back to reds quite often, regardless of camera that I'm using, whether it's Nikon, Fuji, Sony, etc. If I'm taking pictures of roses or anything that has strong reds in it, I do typically have to pull it back in post processing. So it's not just the all-in-one; it's every camera. So I have the all-in-one, still getting used to all I can do. Yeah, me too. I've had it for 2 years now, and it's like I still don't use everything as to its fullest. Hey, Rob, good day from Alberta. Thank you, Vaughn. Good day to you. And let's see. I have the same red problem, but with my Canon M system. Yeah. So there you go, right? It's not just Olympus. Now, if you do have a camera that's not like Fuji's Trans-X processors are pretty good at handling the reds. Uh, the X-Trans sensor, I don't know what it is about the X-Trans array, but somehow the reds aren't quite as oversaturated. But regular Bayer sensors, I don't know why the reds are for scientific reasons are just really hard on cameras. And then thank you for the live answer, almost exclusively done wildlife with Canon, so it's all new and giving a renewed enthusiasm for photography. Awesome. Uh, yeah, the all-in-one is the first camera that justified me buying a 300 millimeter f4 because that's an expensive lens, right? But until I got the all-in-one, I just could not justify buying a lens like that because I wasn't that good at wildlife and birding. But now that I got that subject to tact, man, it's like this. And I'm not saying that all these great features in the camera can substitute skill set, right? If you have a really good skill set in birding or whatever particular subject area, you don't need an all-in-one because you can get great results with the EM1 Mark III if you're really good at tracking and birding, right, with long lenses. But the all-in-one lets like an amateur like me just get a sharp picture of a bird in flight and multiple pictures sharp with a bird in flight that I could never do before. So it's like a piece of cake, right? Picked up a TG7 for a crazy low price. Having experience with it, I saw you had an old vid with the TG5. Yeah, the TG5 and the TG7 are basically the same camera. There's some minor updates in tech side of the TG7, like USB-C port, I think, maybe some other things, but the processor and the sensor and the lens are all identical. So we're getting virtually identical image processing and image quality. So the best processor is DxO for the TG7. It really, I don't know if you were here earlier in the stream, but it really cleans up TG5 files amazingly. So TG7, I think it still has the same TruePic 7 sensor, I believe, or a processor. Let me just look before I leap. TG7. Um, do they even show the specs? Here they are. So I'm looking at this. Oh, it's using the TruePic 8. Oh, so they did update the processor. So basically what that means, the TruePic 8, it's going to be faster and more responsive. I'm surprised they didn't increase the ISO performance. That must be limited by the sensor. Okay, 25. My guess would be upgrading to the TruePic 8 because I'm not seeing uh I'm not really seeing any differences in the spec. Let me just double check. What TG5 specs? Is it the same TruePic 8? Oh, the TG5 has a TruePic 8. All right, so they both use the TruePic 8. They both use the same lens, same processor, same sensor, and everything. Um, I love that little camera. I love it. The only thing that it doesn't have is full manual control. I don't know if the TG7 they added that or not. Probably not, but I do kind of miss having full manual control, uh, but it's not a big deal because the only time I really use full manual control is when I'm doing flash photography. So it's a little difficult to use with flash because there's no hot shoe, first of all. Uh, so you're not missing a lot, but I do miss that. But it wasn't a deal breaker for me because it does have aperture priority. And if you stop it down one stop, because it's an f2 to f something, right? Just stop it down to f2.8, because it only has two f stop, and it's a real aperture. It's not like a made up aperture. There's actually aperture blades in there that close down, but it only has two levels, like 2.8 and f8 or something. Like it only goes two stops. You can't do it like in thirds of a stop. It jumps. It's a little bit sharper, just a tiny bit. But if you have to shoot at a higher ISO, if you're in really good light, stop it down one stop. But if you're in kind of low light, you want to make sure you're wide open all the time because any gains you get in resolution are going to be lost to the fact that you're using a stop higher ISO. That camera falls apart at high ISO. As you saw, I was at ISO 3200 and the image was good, and it cleaned up nice, but you don't want to be at ISO 6400, for example. You know what I mean? If you can be at ISO 32, and you don't want to be at 32 if you can be at ISO 1600. So the lower you can keep the ISO on that camera, the better. But it's great. The autofocus single point is really good, but the autofocus in video is pretty horrible. The continuous autofocus. So you're gonna have to lock it off. But if you don't do a lot of video with that camera, it's okay. But the video quality is actually pretty decent if you lock the focus in. But I did notice the focus tends to drift a little bit in video. Um, and the macro features are really nice. If you get the accessories for it, like the little ring light, people have gotten some amazing shots with that. And I don't use that feature that much. I just use it as a point and shoot camera. So that's why I included it in my comparison with my other cameras. Um, I'm going to compare it against the Olympus 1S and the Panasonic LX5, which is an old CCD 10 megapixel sensor. And I'm comparing it against all my other cameras, obviously, my Sony's, my OM1, my Fuji XH2, etc. Hopefully it'll be, I can get that video together. I'm trying to get I'm doing the testing now, and then I need to get some real world shots from each camera that are kind of similar to do side by sides. So I'm going to be doing more photo walks, and then I'll be able to accumulate this like shootout between all these different cameras. Everything from my A7R5, my XH2, my uh, OM1, my 10F, my EM5 Mark II, and my LX5, my TG5, the 1S, the LX100. I mean, all these different cameras. I just finished the ISO barrage, and I did some bracketing too. So I'm going to test dynamic range a little bit, and then I'm going to do some side by sides, etc. But congrats on the TG7, by the way. It's a fun little camera. I really enjoy my TG5. You got the TG7. I'm sorry. EPL8 for travel. Love that little. Yeah, the EPL is great. It is a great camera. I have one. You think I have every camera, but I really don't. There's so many. Oh, great stream. Got a jet taking girls to Fredericksburg. Oh, that's right. You're local to me. I plan on sending it in for a photo for edit. I'm thinking of retaking Union Station with the Lawa. Cool. And TG7, EP7, all one is my vacation loadout. Yeah, great setup there. The EP7 is a really nice camera. Um, and just popped in. I'll do the rewatch. What time is it? How long have I been on? 2:30. I've been on, not counting all the downtime of the air. I've been on a couple hours. Maybe I should call it if you guys are ready. I don't know. I'm happy to stay on longer if you guys want. But then when somebody wants to rewatch it and they see like 3 hours, they're like, trust me, when I see a video and it's 2, 3 hours long, I'm like, oh man, I'm putting this to 1.5x. So if you're watching this on the replay, I'm telling you this near the end, but you should put it to 1.5x because the pacing of my sentences is such that even if you play it at 1.5x, you can still understand what I'm saying. There's other people like Robin Wong. If you put him at 1.5x, good luck keeping up. Or Jimmy Chang for that matter. Those guys talk so fast. Uh, you can't put them at 1.5x. And there's one guy, I forget who it is, man. I have to put him at 0.5x. Like I have to slow the video down so I can keep up. He talks so fast. In fact, just a little secret, a lot of times when I'm doing my videos, I speed them up in processing uh, about 5 to 7%. I increase the speed in post processing before I publish them because it's just fast enough that you can't tell I sped it up unless you know me really well. You won't be able to tell that I sped the video up a little bit uh, because yeah, my the pacing of my sentences is a little bit it's slower than most. Just like my walk, I walk a little slower than a lot of people. Holy smokes! Thank you so much. Wow, that's so generous of you, man. I appreciate that, Bond. I tell you, man, the donations that I get, time to time are awesome. I love every one of you guys for that, and just for being here, I really appreciate it too. I mean, it's like 40 or 50 of you here, right? Looks like. I'm always flattered by the audience and the comments that I get. You guys have always been so kind and throwing any donation you throw on top is so greatly appreciated. Um, I always do my best, and I try to be honest with you guys when I can. So, oh, Gray Vanzini says, "Great live, Rob. Thanks. I guess it is time to go." When the Gray Vanzini says it's time to go. Oh, Simon says, "I'm really trying hard not to buy the OM1 and the 100/400. Feels like it would be perfect for Bird's nature. It is perfect. It is perfect. Um, people are getting such great results with the 100/400, and it's such a sharp lens. I know David Crooks loves his, and the person at the photo meet today just bought one. They had the Panasonic 100/400, but they like their Olympus one better. Um, me, I would if you can get the 100/400 at a really good deal too, I think. So yeah, I don't think you would regret it. If I don't know what you're shooting with now, but if you're shooting with any other Olympus camera and you go to the OM1 for birds, it's like night and day. It's a huge difference. But that said, like I was saying earlier, if you up your skill set in birding, you don't need the OM1 if you have a really good skill set anyway. You might find even the subject detect distracting, because the focus box is moving everywhere. But a good person to look at for birding is Lee Hoy. He's an excellent, excellent bird photographer, wildlife photographer. Watch his channel. Maybe leave a comment and ask him about the 100/400. Even though he's an OM system ambassador, he will give you the truth about that lens, whatever it is, good or bad. I don't know what he'll say about it. I don't own that lens because I went with the 300. Uh, I tried both. I tried the 100/400 and the 300 f4 Pro, and I decided to go all in on the Pro. Kind of like I'm waiting because there's the 60 mm macro and the 90 mm macro. I might have to go all in and get the 90. That's why I'm holding off on the 60. Um, but if you want to go 100/400, because there's a lot of people that go the other way, they'd rather have that zoom ability, right? Okay. Yes, Lee Hoy. Lee Hoy is the man. Yeah, missed his name. Lee Hoy. he has a channel. Uh, he because he uses he'll give you the truth. That's for sure. If I stick with OM systems, I'll be getting the 300 f4 Pro because it's faster and lighter than any zoom lens. Yes, uh, any zoom lens at that aperture, it's certainly right. Because I think the 100 400 starts at like f4 something, right? I mean, look, because it's smaller than the 100 to 400. I know that. Oh, the 100 to 400 is an f5 to 6.3. Wow, and it's smaller than that even. So, okay. Um, I'm on an EM10 with the 40 to 150. Man, I got some great images with my EM10 Mark II and 40 to 150. That is like bread and butter. That 40 to 150 kit lens, the f4 is the best lens ever. I mean, it's on sale now for $129. If you don't have that lens, you're crazy. I mean, that lens is like that lens is amazing. And you put some extension tubes on that, and it's like the perfect macro, or not macro so much, but very close up photography. Uh, and it's great for event photography. I've used it like for some theater stuff that I've done. I'm at f4, f5, 6 in a theater in low light, but I still got amazing, amazing images. Let me show you a couple real quick, and then I'll end it. I promise. I promise I'll go. Let me see. Where are those images? I don't think I even posted those online. I'll have to go into what I delivered to the customer to find that real quick. What was it called? Dance or something? Yeah. It's not telling me what album it's in. Oh, let me share the screen. You guys have no idea what I'm talking about. But like this image, um, this was my OM1 with the 40 to 150. This is at ISO 1250. And this is also the 40 to 150 kit lens, ISO 800, ISO 1600, ISO 400. This was ISO 500 at f4, 1/125th. I mean, how do I get to the album though? I'm in Google Photos. I don't understand. I don't understand why I can't get to this is ISO 800, ISO 800. And these are all processed with DxO, right? Um, here's ISO 2000. Look at that. ISO 2000. And this again was with the 40 to 150 kit lens and the OM1. I mean, it's just amazing. All in the processing. I don't know why this doesn't let me go to the album. This was with the 12 to 40. This was with the yeah, this is the 12 to 40 f2.8. This was very low light, but I was using flash too, so this came out really well. I don't understand. I'm in Google Photos. Why can't I get to the album? Well, you get the idea. So it's yeah, Wait a minute, you still can't see. Hold on. Did you guys not see any of that? Let me drag it over here. How about now? Can you see, guys see it now? I can't believe you didn't see that. I jibber jabbered for like 10 minutes on these images. All right. So here's the 40 to 150. I wonder if I can do uh this is an ISO 2000, and you can make out every little hair, almost the eyelashes in her eyes right here. So there's that one. And this is with the 40 to 150 kit lens on the OM1. And here's another one. There's the some of the exit data. F4.7 ISO 1250. Because I was keeping my shutter speed up at 1/200th of a second, or whatever I needed. Uh, Here's another one. This is an ISO 1600, and this is on the stream, so you're only seeing like half the resolution anyway. But these came out really amazing. Here's another one, ISO 400, 1/250th of a second. But I took all of these with the kit lens, 40 to 150 kit lens, and just this one's at ISO 500. Look at the detail on that. I mean, it's all in the processing. Uh, let's see what else we got. Here's another one. This one's at ISO 250. This one's pretty low ISO. I dropped the shutter speed to one. Oh wait, this is a different lens, f2.8. That's why the ISO is 250. I must have got in close. All right, so that doesn't count. But this one you see at f4, 40 millimeters. This is definitely the 40 to 150 kit lens. And this just came out amazing. And then I had some, let's see. Oops. What's this one at? This is at ISO 800. This is at ISO 800. Oh, this is with the 75 1.8. That's why. I'm looking at the data here. F1.8 75 millimeters. Oh, because she was moving around really fast, so I switched to the 75. So I can use this very fast shutter speed, 1/1000th. How about this one? Yeah, 75 millimeter f2, and this was with the pro lens. All right, so these are all client type photos, but yeah, this is definitely the 40 to 150 kit lens. So like I was, let me see. I think I was zooming in on this before. I mean, look at the detail on that. This is ISO 500 with the 40 to 150 kit lens and the OM1. I mean, I can see like I think these fake eyelashes are thicker than normal eyelashes, but you can see every little lash. You can see all the little detail in her headdress here and the necklace, you know. Um, that's as much as I can zoom in with this. And because I'm shooting at f4 on a micro four thirds, I got great depth of field, right? So I'm really shooting like at an f8 depth of field. Look at all the detail you can see in this image. I mean, it's just amazing. So uh, that's what I'm saying. I have no. no desire to buy the f2.8 Pro version or even the Pro f4 40 to 150, because I'm sure that's sharper lens. But really, how much sharper do you need to be? If you can post-process your images a little bit, like I said, I use DxO, uh, you just it's just splitting hairs. I don't see a reason to spend because people ask me all the time, should I get the 40 to 150 f4 Pro or the 2.8? I'm like, forget those. Get the kit lens for $129. Buy two. You know, I mean, it just doesn't make sense. So, uh, anyhow, I am it's 5 o'clock. I should go. Quite a great Vanzini, right? Um, oh, you can't use the teleconverter on the 40 to 150 kit lens. You can use it on the 40 to 150 f2.8. Now, some people do that in lieu of buying, say, any of the other telephoto lenses. They just get the teleconverter with their 2.8 40 to 150. But I still think it's better just to buy the focal length that you need and only use the teleconverter to extend when you have to. Like on my 300 millimeter f4, most of the time it's glued to that lens, but sometimes I have to take it off because I'm too close, right? At 300. Yeah, see? Awesome. Awesome. Mostly just slideshows. Um, it's a steal for what it is. It is. It's amazing. It's like the unsung hero of micro four third lenses. I mean, I can talk about it till I'm blue in the face, and yet, people see that price and like, well, it can't be any good for that price. It's so good. It's just so good. Um, Even at full price at 199, it's worth it. But if you can get it for less than like 150 or 129 on sale, I should buy a second one just for the heck of it. But all right, I think I will end it here. So you guys have a great week. I will be back on Tuesday with a photo editing live stream, and I will try and edit your photos. So submit your images if you want me to edit your photo. And I'm going to talk more about DxO that day. It's also the photo lab. I'll talk more about it than I have here today. So you guys have a great rest of your week. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate your time with me here today. As always, have a great week.